So in the middle of September, the homeschool co-op middle and high school students went to Yellowstone Park, and we'd like to present a recap of our trip. So the first activity we did was stop at an area and take a look that had been affected by the 1988 forest fires. And although it's been a number of years since then, students are still able to see some of the effects of the fires and also to take a look at the regrowth that has occurred since that particular time.
On our Yellowstone trip, we studied fire regrowth. To do this, we threw a scientific nunchuck on a square foot of ground. We found that the average percentages were 24% forbs, 13% was grass, 41% was litter, 5% was moss and lichen, and 12% was bare ground. Oh, and also 7% was trees. The average grass height in the forest we studied was 30 centimeters. The average tree height was 284 centimeters. The average tree age was 13 rolls. A whorl is the group of branches on a tree. A new whorl grows every year. After a fire, small animals such as ground squirrels move into the newly opened area. New plants stimulated by increased sunlight grow vigorously in the newly fertilized soil.
So the next thing we did was go to Old Faithful, where the students had actually created a model of Old Faithful eruption, and using that mathematical model, they were able to watch the eruption and then predict when Old Faithful would go off again.
Hey guys, I'm Sam. We just took a trip to Yellowstone a couple weeks ago, and so now just gonna do a little video on that. So I thought I'd talk about what was going on with Yellowstone and Old Faithful. Old Faithful is a geyser. Goes off. Actually, depends on how long it goes off for. The time between eruptions. And there's also lots of other features around there, like there's hot springs, there's pools, there's other geysers too. There's one geyser called a beehive. Shoots like a couple hundred feet into the air. It's really cool. Goes off like every 5 days. There's also lots of other cool things. Like there's
So this is Beehive Geyser that we got to see go off, which was really cool. And also you can see down in the picture on the right-hand side where students are actually taking temperature of some of the hot spring features that they saw at Old Faithful area. So the next thing we did, another thing we did at least, was take a look at water quality both on the Fire and the Gibbon River, or Fire Hole and the Gibbon Rivers.
So now we're going to take a look at the river's biotic index and its flow and volume, and then we're going to put them together and see how they affect each other. We did our studies at the Gibbon River and the Fire Hole River.
So when we were studying the river's volume, we had to measure the average depth, the width of the river, and the speed of water flow. Then we multiplied the average depth by the width of the river by the speed of water flow, which gave us volume of water going through the river per second. The Gibbon River had 5.17 cubic meters per second, and the Fire Hole had 17.58 cubic meters per second.
So my group's part was to determine the health of the river as it's shown by the ratio of sensitive to tolerant organisms. So we had some people churning up mud with their feet, and they would catch what floated by in their nets, and we would count what got caught in the net. And then also we would pick up rocks from the riverbed and count what clung to those.
Another activity that students engaged in was identification of skulls, of animal skulls. You can see some of those skulls here on this page.
Hi, my name is Brennan, and I'm doing the report on the skull study we did in Yellowstone. So, like one of the ways we figured it out was, well, first of all, they gave us a chart, and they just gave us all these random animal skulls, and we were told to figure them out. And it was actually a really fun way because they gave us a chart and we looked at the front teeth. That was one of the ways we figured it out. Just by the smaller incisor teeth was more characteristic of a smaller animal, like a weasel skull, and like the more canine teeth, more characteristic of a coyote or a larger animal, is one other way. So after we figured that out, we looked at the length of the skull, and it was actually pretty easy to figure out if you had a bear skull just because of the length of it, because just how bears are so much larger than most of the other animals. And after that, we looked at the teeth from the back of the teeth to the middle because the teeth are the same on both sides. So we figured it out by just counting from the back to the front how many teeth there were, and like a mountain lion. And after that, we looked at the how wide the brain casing was, and that was one of the more technical ways of figuring it out because a lot of the other skulls didn't really require it after that, but just for a couple we had to. So after that, we figured out our skulls, discussed it, and really had a good time. Thanks for watching.
We also talked about the controversy of trout in Yellowstone Lake.
Problems with introducing a foreign species, lake trout, to the Yellowstone Lake include being not only unethical but extremely harmful to the native species of cutthroat. The lake trout are deeper water fish and they eat shallower living cutthroat trout as their main dietary supplement. Lake trout are an average 48 to 50 inches, much larger than the cutthroat trout. Our activity involved dumping goldfish snacks into a brown paper bag, the lake, capturing some lake trout, then tagging them by replacing them with pretzel fish. We then tagged 10 more times, found out how many were tagged and untagged fish. We caught each time and averaged the amounts of lake trout there were in our paper bag lake. That's what Weston has.
So that was a recapture or a capture-recapture activity that the students did with the goldfish.
The cutthroat is a small surface-dwelling fish native to Yellowstone Lake. Being surface dwellers, they're easy prey for eagles, osprey, and otter, who rely on the constant supply of food. The cutthroat are also a main source of food for grizzlies emerging from hibernation as cutthroat spawn upriver in the spring. In the late 70s to early 80s, however, a new type of fish, the lake trout, was introduced to Yellowstone Lake. Being a deep water living fish dwelling more than 30 feet below the surface, the intruder was not discovered until 1994, and by then the lake trout were overtaking the entire lake. How did this species become dominant so fast, and why were cutthroat numbers now dwindling? An average mature lake trout weighs in at about 21.5 pounds, where a trophy cutthroat is maybe 5 pounds. It comes as no surprise then that the mature lake trout can consume as many as 50 cutthroats per year. Another downfall to lake trout is their spawning habits. Not only do lake trout spend their lives near the bottom of the lake, making them a near impossible catch for animals and humans alike, but they also spawn there. This is bad news for the grizzlies because they rely on the spring spawning cutthroat, and without them they must find other means of food, disrupting the delicate balance of Yellowstone's ecosystem. The situation has grown to such that it is now illegal to release a live lake trout. In an attempt to get a handle on the situation, Yellowstone National Park contracted with a commercial fishing industry to increase the catch of lake trout. Because of this, 600,000 lake trout have now been caught since the 1990s. In conclusion, the effort continues to restore the ecosystem surrounding Yellowstone Lake to its original condition.
So we hope you've enjoyed our brief overview of the trip, and thanks a lot.